Okay, we're going to graph systems of inequalities. On this first problem, I messed this up. This should be greater than or equal to, not just equal. So you have an absolute value and you have just a linear inequality. So that makes a line, this makes a V. Now make a table on your scratch paper, or you can do it on here, but I'm going to use scratch paper so you can see what I'm doing. On one side I put y less than or equal to 3, the other side I put y greater than or equal to the absolute value of x minus 1. We're going to do our absolute value first, okay? So we need our vertex, that's the middle of the V, and we need our stretch. The vertex is a coordinate point. It's an xy, but it's defined as hk. And then the stretch is a, defined by a. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to box up my absolute value. That's your h, okay? Then you need an a, okay? You put a 1 there, and that's your a. You also need a k after it. So if you don't have anything, you put plus 0, that's your k. Now you're set to go. Now h, I want you to take the inside expression, set it equal to 0, so we don't have people just putting a -1 for h. Because it's not -1. You're finding the value for x that pulls your absolute value to 0, because that's the minimum of an absolute value. So x would be 1. K, I just dropped the 0 in, and the stretch would be 1. Okay. So graph that. Don't worry about here until that is graphed. So 1, 0. Okay. There's your vertex. Then it's an absolute value. You go up 1, forward 1, and then up 1, backwards 1. Okay, the equals to line is there, so it's a solid V. Now as far as a greater, again, above is greater, below is less. I don't care if it's right side up or upside down. Above is greater, below is less. We have greater, so put a true right there. Don't shade it though. Do not shade it, okay, yet. Don't shade it. The shading's done after our line's down. So over here, y is less than or equal to 3. X ain't even here, so x not here. So that means I make the 3 coordinates. What letter is there? It's y, so y is always at 3. X not here, so x would be 1, 2, 3. So then I go forward 1, up 3, forward 2, up 3, forward 3, up 3, and that'd be a solid line. Now, here's why I did not shade. The line cuts the shading part in 2 parts. You got 2 halves. You got above here, okay, and below here. Okay, there's a top and a bottom inside here. We're going to shade somewhere inside here. If it's less than, okay, you shade below, okay. So you shade just the part inside that V that's below. Okay. So you don't shade up here. Okay. All right, next problem. Again, we have 2. Y less than -1/3 x plus 1, and then y greater than 2, absolute value x minus 1 minus 2. Focus on your, again, that's a line. That's a V. Okay, so let's talk about the V first. So we need the vertex and we need the stretch. Okay, vertex is defined with h and k. That's an x, same as an xy, and the stretch is defined by a. Okay, so put a box around that. That's your h, and you have an a and you have a k. Now to find your h, you set the inside equal to 0. Then you find the value for x that would pull that to 0, be 1. Now your k is the -2, and then the stretch, a is 2, put a 1 under it. Okay, that's up 2, forward 1, and then up 2, backwards 1. So 1, -2. Then you go up 2, forward 1, up 2, backwards 1. Do it again. Okay, that would be a dashed V, because you don't have the equals to sign, it's only greater than. Now, again, greater than, less than. Okay, so greater than is the one here, so this is true. Okay, don't shade don't shade it yet though. Okay, because there's going to be a line that cuts through that. Okay, this time y and x are both here, so make a wall on the y side. Okay, y is by itself, so you have your MB. So slope, y int. So slope's negative 1/3, y-intercept's +1. So you go up to +1, then you go down 1, forward 3. Okay, then you take a ruler and make that line. And it will be a dashed line here too. Okay, so we know we're shading above that. Now, that's a less than sign, so it's again below. Okay, you shade the part above the V, okay, that's below. Just that little section right in there. Okay. Okay, next one. We have y greater than x minus 2, and then y less than or equal to x minus 7. Okay, so that's a line, that's a V. Okay, we do the V first, so I need my vertex and the stretch. So vertex I would define with HK, stretch is A. Okay, so inside the absolute values where the H, how we're going to find the H, we put a 1 here, so I have an A, and then a +0 here, that's the K. So set your x minus 7 equal to 0, add 7, and that's 7 for your H. K is 0, stretch is 1/1. That means up, but forward and backward. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up 1, forward 1, up 1, backward 1, and then so forth. Okay, the equals to means it's a solid V. Okay. Go all the way up to the top. Go till the end of the graph. Okay, now we had greater than, so that's true. So this is greater than, this is less than. So we have greater than, so the true is up here. Okay, don't shade that though, because the line cuts it into two parts, that part of the V. Okay, y and x are both here, so I apply the y is by itself, so MB. So slope 1/1, the y-intercept -2. So I go -2, and that's just an up 1, forward 1. We don't go backwards 1, because it's a line. That's going to be dashed. Okay, now, where I'm shading is cut into two. The top half, the bottom half, okay? Above, below. That's a greater than, so that's above, okay? So we shade the part that's above. Had that been a less than, I'd shade the part that was below. Okay, next one. We have y less than or equal to -4/3 x, but then I wrote this one wrong. First off, it should be less than, okay? And that needs to be a negative in front of that. I screwed that up. This is how the problem should have been originally. Y less than or equal to negative absolute value x plus 6. Let's talk absolute value first. Let's do the V. Vertex, stretch. Vertex is defined by HK, that's like an XY, and the stretch is your A. So I put the inside of the absolute value, that's your H. If it doesn't have a number inside, that's fine, just leave it empty. But you need an A, and you already have a K. Okay, H, set the inside equal to 0, so it's going to be 0. And then K is 6, and then A is -1 over 1, so it'll be down, forward, and backwards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then down 1, forward 1, down 1, backward 1, and then you just repeat the process. Equals to line is there, so it's solid, okay. Okay, now the other line. So you got y and x, y is by itself, so m, and then plus 0 gives me my b. So slope, y-intercept. If you need something added and you don't see it, put a 0. -4 over 3 and y-intercept 0. So I go down 4, forward 3. Now this is going to look kind of weird, okay? It's a solid line. Oh shoot, before I even did the line, I should have labeled my true false on the V, okay? Now, even though it's upside down, above greater, below less, that doesn't change, okay? We have less than now, so the true's here. Okay, now we're good. Then the line cuts it into two parts. Okay, that's a less than, so I shade the part that's below the line, okay? Because this would be above, this would be below. Okay, 3 left. Okay, that's a line, that's going to be a V. So y greater than -2, then y less than or equal negative absolute value x minus 3. So let's talk absolute value first. So vertex, and then your stretch. Okay, vertex defined with HK. That's the same as an XY coordinate when I graph it. Stretch A. So there's your H, okay. A, you'd apply a 1. And then K, we put a plus 0 behind it. Okay, so for your H, you set the absolute value expression to 0, and then find your X value that makes that 3. So it'd be 3 and then 0. Stretch factor is -1. So it's down 1 both ways, but then because of the absolute value, you go forward and backwards. So 3, 0. Now I go down 1, forward 1, down 1, backward 1. Repeat it. It's got the equals, so it's a solid V, okay? And again, greater than is the points out here, less than is the points under it. Well, we have that, so there's my true. So I would shade that, but the line cuts it into two parts then, okay? X is not here, so X not here. Well, that means we're going to set up the constant coordinates. So it's Y that's there, so Y is -2 constantly. X not here, 1, 2, 3. So I go forward 1, down 2, there's already a point there. Forward 2, down 2, forward 3, down 2. That would be a dashed line that just cuts through it. That's a greater than, so that's above. Okay, so you would shade the part where the line cuts through above it, just that little space here. If that was less than, I'd be shading below it. Okay, next one's a confusing one. I don't think this is an issue on the assignment. You got -x greater than or equal to 4 minus y, and then you have y greater than or equal to absolute value 3x minus 6. That's a line, that's a V. First thing, inside the absolute value, we do not want that 3 here, okay? So here's what you're going to do. You're going to pull 3 outside. That's going to be the A, but then you have to divide each one of these by 3, and that's going to be x minus 2. So you need to rewrite it as 3 absolute value x minus 2, because you just want the x by itself. Now you're ready for your vertex and your stretch. Vertex, HK, A is the stretch. So set that inside of that, that's your H. 3 is your A, and then plus 0 is the k. So x minus 2 equals 0, so h would have a value of 2. K is 0, and the stretch is 3. Okay, so 2, 0. Then you go up 3 in both directions, but because of the absolute value, you go forward and backwards. Okay, it would be a solid. So greater than, less than, we have greater than, so the trues are up here for the absolute value part, but then the line cuts through it. Now this is a messed up line, okay? You need to cross that out first. You're going to flip the sign so your y expression is over here. Okay, you're just flipping the sides. Now you got to get your y by itself so you can find the slope and y-intercept. So your y is a negative, so you go negative, positive, flip the sign, and then positive x. Put the 1 there if you want. Okay, you put a 1 in front of the y if you want. Now you got to get your negative 4 out of here, so plus 4. Put a 0 over there so you have a place to add 4. So we got 1y, you can just put y, and then 1x plus 4. Now I have a perfect slope-intercept form. So slope is 1 over 1, y-intercept is positive 4. So I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1, forward 1, up 1. You don't go backward because it's not an absolute value. Okay. Take your ruler, and it's a solid line because the equals 2's there. Okay, so you know you're shading here, but the V's been sliced into 2 halves, okay? You've got a above and a below. Well, we ended up with a greater than, so that's above. So we shade the portion that's above. Okay, last problem. Negative 2y less than 4x plus 2, y greater than absolute value 2x plus 4. Let's talk, that's a line, that's a v. Let's talk about the v first, okay? You don't want that, you don't want a multiplier on the x, so you shift the 2 out here and then you divide each of these by 2. So that's going to be x, okay, and that's 2. So it's x plus 2. So rewrite that so it looks better. Now we set up our vertex and our stretch. Vertex HK. You got to know where these things are at, okay? So inside is your h, that's your a, and then plus 0 would be the k. So set the inside equal to 0, and you get negative 2. So there's your h, okay? It's an x factor. K is the 0, that's a y, okay? Stretch is 2. So plot negative 2, 0, that's your vertex, and then up 2, forward 1, up 2, backward 1. Okay, it would be a dashed v. I know I'm doing it down here, that's fine, okay? Now you have greater than, less than. Well, we appear to have greater than, so that's true. Now the line's going to cut through that, so we don't want to just shade the whole true side, it's a system. Okay, we've got y and x, so we're going to use slope, y-intercept to graph, but y is not by itself. It's a negative, so positive, flip sign, negative, negative. Okay, you don't have to add, subtract. You're just going to divide all of these by 2. So we have y greater than negative 2x minus 1. So the slope would be negative 2 over 1, and then minus 1 is your y-intercept. Okay, then we go down 2, forward 1. Down 2, forward 1. Okay, and the line will go through that. Be a dash line, my bad, okay. So again, that's cut into two parts, this big part above and this part, little part here below. Okay, well, that's above. So you're shading just not the whole V, just the part above where the line cuts through.